Hello guys, good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 30th. I'm gonna do a short video or quick video talking about today's price action, trying to explain a little bit of what happened and how we could have taken advantage of it. And let's just jump straight into it. So we had I wouldn't say rangy session, I wouldn't say bearish, I wouldn't say bullish. I do believe we had mostly a bearish session, right? Based on everything that happened. But there were opportunities both sides, and we could have believed that price could have gone both sides at the same time. So, last night on my Telegram, I mentioned that I wanted to see price taking this liquidity that was being built up to then continue lower, looking for this sell side liquidity, or at the very least, it could have taken this clear sell side liquidity that's being built up here, right? In my opinion, we're leaving a lot of sell side liquidity behind, but at the same time, as an example, yesterday's price action took all of this, which honestly I didn't even see, I believe, on yesterday's trading. I don't really remember much of yesterday, if I can be honest, but basically, as you can see, we had multiple lows together. The price swept and then continued higher. We have a little bit of a range that then causes the continuation, and now we have what I believe could be a potential reversal, right? As a lot of buy side liquidity has been taken, a lot of sell side is pending in multiple areas, and we have changes in the trend, as an example, in the 50-minute time frame, and some other things. So what happened today? It began with London being pretty aggressive, which means that throughout the session we're either going to have price ranging a little and then respecting the trend, just continuing with the trend that was set by London in this case, or a reversal, or just basically price just ranges, right? And maybe through the PM session we see something going on, right? Today, in my opinion, we had a little bit of both. Well, not a little bit of both. A little bit of a range that then turns into a reversal that we could have taken advantage of in a couple of situations. And let's jump onto that. So going back to the basics, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, what I wait for is for first a run and stops that happens on the higher time frames, so 5 or 15-minute time frame. Then displacement will generate fair value gap, and along with that I want to see a market shift in 5 or 15-minute time frame. And when that happens, I'm gonna utilize the 5-minute fair value gaps or 15-minute fair value gaps to look for bearish or bullish opportunities. Usually I'm going to have a theoretical bias for the day that I'm going to try and follow, just to but that will allow me to say, okay, so I'm expecting run on sell side or run on buy side, right? By understanding what price could do this specific day, I'm going to be looking for confluences in that direction specifically, right? Today I set through my Telegram that I wanted to see bullish price action, and we had this sell side liquidity that was being built up. Price takes that, goes higher, retraces, and along with the open, price basically trades inside this 5-minute fair value gap, right? The open trades below the low. It doesn't give us lower time frame opportunities, which is fine overall, right? But basically, we never had the opportunity to buy, at least on this reaction here, right? If we would have gone for the 5-minute fair value gap, then yes. But based on the lower time frame entry, we never got the chance to do so. So after that run and sell side liquidity, well, actually, let's go back a little bit because I didn't analyze what happened. So what do we have through London? London went aggressively lower, took multiple lows as liquidity, right? And then started displacing higher, right? We have a little bit of buy side liquidity here that is taken as liquidity. And what do we see here? Even on the 15-minute time frame, we have a market shift and a fair value gap on the 15 as well, as I mentioned. But on the 5-minute, we can see that even tiny run liquidity, market shift, fair value gap, price trace into that, more fair value gap. This high is actually respected, as you can see here, and everything, right? So we do have a potential reversal, right? Due to the fact that, well, we've taken a lot of a lot of buy side liquidity. We created this, and we start seeing signs that the trend, at the very least, does change, right? And fair value gaps are being created and respected over and over to the downside, right? So of course we do have that in mind. So as an example, if A30 is this, what am I going to be waiting for? Sorry, it's not the one. This. If A30 is this, what am I going to be waiting for? I'm gonna look for price to go higher, take a high, and then displace lower to try and sell, right? Now, today, session begins, trades below this low that had already taken sell side liquidity, and then starts pushing aggressively higher. We have a market shift, we have a fair value gap. So at that point, that's when I took an entry. And this is the only entry that, as an example, this week I'm not going to be trading on challenge nor funded account, because last week I managed to achieve a certain target or target that I had in mind. So for me, actually, last week and yesterday, I had 2 targets to fulfill per se on August. I fulfilled them. And as this week we got multiple news every single day almost, I'm going to be avoiding trading on funded and challenge. So I'm going to be trading just on demo and paper trading, right? So this is the only trade that today I would have taken in a challenge or a funded account, because it's pretty much what we look for. We have the run on sell side, displacement higher, we're expecting price to go higher, we have a 50-minute fair value gap in here, we have everything that we look for, right? The entry does work out, as you can see, takes a high, retraces, tries to go higher, but then completely fails. So this for me would have been very likely a loss. If I was aggressive, I would have gotten out with a break even. But as you can see, price, what this ends up being is pretty much a Judah swing, right? Price just going higher, taking buy side liquidity, created with this little bit of a high, of couple of highs, and then this reaction, as happens somewhat close, does cause some buy side liquidity to be created as well, right? So after that, as you can see, price starts changing the direction. We have a market shift on the 5-minute on this candle, right? But there's no 5-minute fair value gap until this, right? Now, the reason why I didn't take this, or I would have not taken this on a funded or challenge account, is because it's happening pretty late, and the entire session, the direction has not been really simple to understand or really clear on any way imaginable, right? So when I saw that, let's actually look at this first entry. So this is the 5-minute fair value gap. Price mitigates it. Market shift with this candle, fair value gap, price trace inside that, goes aggressively higher, gives me around an hour or a 1.5 hour or something like that, and then starts turning around and takes me out for a loss on this one. So here price mitigates it. We have the high that creates the fair value gap, taken as liquidity, market shift, fair value gap, and this was the entry. I actually can show the executions, right? Yeah. Okay, we'll discuss that later. So basically, as you can see, I was trying to sell from this fair value gap. This is the first mitigation. And then when I saw price retracing, this ends up being liquidity, price kind of mitigating this as an example, right? The bullish order block that we have of the 1 minute. And also, again, this as liquidity. For me, it was really good confluences. Then price starts going aggressively lower, taking some partials, goes for tiny bit of a retracement, more fair value gaps overall being mitigated, continues aggressively lower. As it was basically progressing the trade, I just started closing some partials here as well. And then here, when it got to this level to the left, which is my target was just below this low, looking for this the sell side liquidity to be taken, right? Sell side liquidity to be taken. And it just wasn't taken. And the fact that it reacts so aggressively from here, it's just building more and more sell side, right? Because we have this, and then we have this. All of this is something that price is doing, creating quite aggressively, right? So I would expect price to take all of this at some point, but maybe what we're likely going to see is price just retracing aggressively, getting into a deeper point of this most recent impulse, right? So just a tiny bit of a retracement, maybe mitigate this, or maybe take the liquidity above the size, and then we'll see these levels as costs for price to go lower, right? Liquidity for price to go lower, right? So that's my long-term thought of what we have currently, right? Now, we do have to keep in mind that as an example, oh no, never mind. No, because from my phone, I saw that there was a market shift in the 5-minute. The 5-minute created a fair value gap that then, well, price traces into and starts going higher. I was going to say that this is something that we could have taken advantage of, but honestly, as the sell side was not taken, this is nothing that we should have taken. Could have, based on the market shift and the fair value gap, but honestly, that would have been the only confluences that we had in our favor, so definitely not worth it. So overall, the day was mostly bearish because it's the only thing that we could have really taken advantage of today, specifically. And how could we determine that we were bearish? Honestly, we don't have much to work with, right? Why could have we expected a bearish session? A lot of sell side taken from here, sell side here. We see how price starts respecting that, right? Judah swing for value gap. This Judah swing and the creation of the fair value gap is actually a really good indication, but it's happening pretty late. Right? As I mentioned, this happened pretty late, so I'm not going to take advantage of that on something like a transitional fronted, definitely paper trading. Ideally, after this Judah swing, after this high is taken, I would have liked to see a fair value gap here, right? Not for it to then create another leg of price action, and then that's when it shows up, right? In my opinion, it wasn't very clear price action in the entire day, and these buys are the ones that make the most sense. Again, most of it because of the sell side that we had just taken, and the fact that price has been bullish and could continue to be bullish throughout the next couple of days, right? There is a lot of sell side liquidity pending behind us, so that's definitely gonna be used sooner or later. But basically, at the time, it hasn't been taken, and might continue to be respected for a couple of days. So overall, if we go back and say our 3 steps, if we want to call it 3 steps, are run stops, displacement happens here, market shift happened earlier clearly. This is not the ideal scenario for me, because the displacement and the market shift should happen together. The creation of the fair value gap should happen together. As an example, here we have the market shift, and the fair value gap is literally happening as the market shift happens. Right, that'll be the ideal scenario for me, right? Because as an example, I would have trusted this entry here much more than this one, right? Even though this one does work out and this one doesn't. It does for a bit, which could have allowed us to get stop loss or break even. I don't think so, right? I don't think so, but definitely could have happened. And it is what it is, right? To sell, besides from this, we had this through pre-New York. And this is not pre-New York, this is pre-New York. So through phase 1, we have move against the trend, continuation lower, tiny run of liquidity, mitigation of 5-minute fair value gap. This, I do believe we had sells in here, and also in the 15-minute, this 15-minute fair value gap does have 1-minute fair value gap, so you could have sold from, and that could have allowed us to go all the way down to these levels, or at least down to this sell side liquidity that was being built up here. I also did talk about when price was reacting here on my Telegram. I said that price is reacting because of something, and I didn't mention it until after it happened, because I wanted to show how price is just manipulating liquidity into the market to then take and maybe continue higher. And as I said, first of all, it's happening before the open, so we can't really look for buys. And when the session does open, it just goes straight to the downside, taking the low, right? So yeah, nothing else to add, honestly. I was trying to use the power of 3 today as well, because as an example, with the midnight open, we get that this is the open, so we do have to move below it, right? The manipulation and then the distribution. And even through the open, we had something like that as well, because this is the open, so price trades below it, aggression higher, price comes back into the lower end of the basically on the area of the manipulation. So this could have definitely been considered a really good opportunity, which is what I did, and reason again why I would have definitely taken this on a challenge for funded account. I would have ended up in a loss, right? Overall, could have we realized that this was a judo swing based on the fact that prices just creating lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and everything? Yes, because this is just pure liquidity being taken. It shows that it's changing directions when it's really just not, right? So it could have been easy to identify the judo swing, but I would have not missed out on this opportunity even if I thought this was a judo swing, right? So that's really pretty much it. Short video because today wasn't that eventful, right? Overall. And if we look for 3 things that I look for to take a trade, the 3 basics things, we only got this one, and this one happens again. The displacement and the market shift should happen together, which it didn't. So for me, it's not a good opportunity and happening pretty late into the day. So neither, right? Neither. And target would have been below this low. So I do think that would have been a complicated thing to take some profits on that. But yeah, overall, a pretty good opportunity to buy, in my opinion, that just didn't work out, and to sell as well, just complicated from certain points of view. And that is really pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you on to the next one.